Hey guys, Josh here, welcome to the second part of my F1 2015 season review. In this episode we're going to be looking at the 2015 season for Force India, Lotus and Toro Rosso. Let's get straight into it then, talking about Force India, the team 5th in the standings despite only having the 8th largest budget. Definitely the best pound for pound team in Formula 1 at the moment. A fantastic job from Force India, easily their best season ever, which is quite amazing really if you look back to the beginning of the season in February and March. Their kind of pre-season was plagued with problems. They had financial issues in India with Vijay Mallya and the boss of Kingfisher as well, of course one of their main sponsors, as well as Sahara. And there are all sorts of these kind of niggling financial issues going on with Force India, but they just managed to fight all of that, and they even had quite a rocky start really to the season. They were basically the second or third slowest team really, but they just completely turned that around with the introduction of their B-Spec car, which is by far the best Force India we've ever seen, and was actually about the third quickest car on certain occasions. If you look at Abu Dhabi in qualifying, Perez even managing to qualify 4th, only behind the Ferrari and the Mercedes. So that was pretty spectacular really from Perez, and it really has been a fantastic season for Sergio Perez. Finally he seems to have got it together, and he seems to have got really good consistency. If we see that in 2016, then there's no reason why he can't be a big contender to return to one of the top teams in 2017. Nico Hülkenberg, on the other hand, it's been by far his worst season in Formula 1 to date. I mean, this should have been the year where Hülkenberg could have really shown his true potential. In the second half of the year, if he'd managed to get to grips with the B-Spec car, he could have been on the podium multiple times. You know, he's shown so much pace over his last few years, so much promise in kind of slower cars, and now he's finally got this kind of probably the best car he's ever driven, and he just wasn't able to capture it in the same way Perez was. And I think we are going to see a resurgent Hülkenberg next year. I think he's going to come back fighting. At the start of the year, it was kind of the similar story, with Hülkenberg being the more consistent one and having the slight edge over Perez, but really Perez just turned it on at about the midpoint of the year, certainly when the introduction of the B-Spec car came in, the second B-Spec car really in Singapore. Perez just managed to take it to another level that Hülkenberg really couldn't manage. Hülkenberg was crashing a lot in the second half of the year. He, of course, he had a problem in Belgium as well, which was not his fault, and in America as well, his front wing dramatically failed. But points were lost crucially in Singapore and in Russia with failures with driver error from Hülkenberg. So a bit of a missed opportunity there from Hülkenberg to finally show what he's made of. Surely that's his big chance gone. But certainly Perez has really established himself as the class of the midfield, and Force India are the class of the midfield now. I mean, that B-Spec car was just absolutely on another level. I mean, the car they had at the start of the year was pretty basic really, and wasn't really up to scratch, and it's such a refreshing change really to see Force India actually progress as this season goes on, and that's certainly a philosophy I think they really need to employ in future years when possible. I mean, like I said before, 8th biggest budget on the grid and finishing 5th, just outstanding. I really can't put it into words. I mean, of course, I'm a massive Force India fan, so I'm biased, but for me, they're the best team this season by far. Sergio Perez as well, one of the best drivers this season. Can't say he's completely, the best driver this season. I think that would be unfair. He did have certain odd races, especially towards the start of the year. Take Australia, for example, who's getting involved in silly incidents with Jenson Button. That was a prime opportunity to score a few more points. And had Force India had that B-Spec car from Australia, could they have even challenged Red Bull? It's certainly within the realms of possibility. I mean, you look how quick that car was. They could have even challenged Williams, so there's so much promise for Force India for the future. No wonder top manufacturers like Aston Martin want to buy them, because I think everyone's starting to realise that Force India is the team to be really. And if any potential manufacturers want to join, why start your own team when you can just buy Force India, a well established and the class of the midfield, the best midfield team I think we've ever seen in the history of Formula 1, probably since kind of the Jordan-esque kind of team. Of course, it came out of the ashes of Jordan, and they've just done a fantastic job over at Force India, and long may it continue. Let's talk about a 6th place team then, Lotus. Their drivers Romain Grosjean and Pastor Maldonado guiding the Lotus team to 6th in the Constructors. Of course, an improvement on 2014, but a slight disappointment really, I think, for Lotus. I mean, their off-track troubles really just plagued everything to do with their on-track troubles really. I mean, they did have a fair few they had so much unreliability in the first half of the year, especially on Maldonado's car. They kind of managed to iron that out, slightly towards the end of the year, and they were able to score points fairly consistently, but there were just odd weekends where we'd have double DNFs and just off-track dramas, the biggest one, of course, being if Renault were going to buy the team. At least now we know that they are. And just the off-track issues were horrendous, really. The financial issues were right. They were just spending more than they have, and they were just holding out for that Renault deal. Although they said they had a backup plan in my mind, I think if that Renault deal didn't go through, then Lotus would be around where Sauber are next season. I think, they would really, really be struggling to even stay afloat in Formula 1. I mean, it was such a mess, and it's such a good thing that Renault have come in. I mean, they're even so desperate they signed Maldonado and Palmer really, really early for next year just to get that money. And now Renault have taken over; their contracts are in doubt. So that's gonna be interesting. I do hope, with all due respect to Maldonado and Palmer, that we do get two other drivers in that Renault seat. But Palmer would be worthy, I believe. But Maldonado's run out of luck, really. I think he's surely, his luck's gonna change now, and he's gonna lose out on the seat like he fully deserves. You can't make a case for him staying at Lotus, the new Renault team. I really can't see him being a great team leader to lead the new Renault, team into a new age. They have to get rid of Maldonado surely now. It's not the fact that he crashes, occasionally, because most of the time it's not his fault. He has bad reliability. It's the fact that he's been out qualified by Romain Grosjean 18-1 over the season. How can you justify keeping that man on, especially as your team leader? Odd races, like, I guess, Canada, I think he had a pretty good race as well, Austria, Russia as well, but then other races, he's just been absolutely anomalous, well off the pace or crashing. When you look at Grosjean, complete opposite. The one issue he had, of course, in Canada, where he just chopped across Will Stevens, that was a bit idiotic, but apart from that, Grosjean's been, supreme really this year, especially over Maldonado. Grosjean, definitely one of the most underrated drivers this season, really, really been plugging away, and hasn't really done too much wrong, scoring 51 points, finishing up in 11th place, just behind Nico Hülkenberg as well. Could have beaten him. So, I think it's been a really, really good season for Grosjean, for him to send off from Lotus. It's just tough, really, because you look at where they were back in 2012, back in 2013, where they were pushing for podiums, and even threatening to challenge for the title. The rumours that if they could get it all together, they could actually challenge for the title. And or at least for wins more regularly. Of course, they did get a couple of wins in Abu Dhabi and Australia between 2012 and 2013. 2014 was a dismal year for them, and coming away from the Renault power just kind of showed that Lotus have fundamental issues with the chassis, and I'm hoping that Renault are going to be able to sort them. No way are they going to be able to sort them for next year, but I guess 2018 is the realistic objective for them to be getting back on the podium. This year's shown that they can get a podium, I think, in kind of a fluke race like Belgium. So we'll have to see what happens to the Renault outfit, but a lot of money going into that, a lot of experience, hopefully some better drivers as well in the future. So I really do think that's the team on the up, and fully deserve it as well. But everybody hopefully has a job. I think they're keeping most of the kind of lower down people should be staying on. Some of the higher up people, though, I do believe will be going, of course, which is to be expected, to be fair, like Nick Carter and that, and people like him will definitely be going out, but I'm sure they'll find work elsewhere. So overall then, Lotus, what can I say, really, is a disappointing year, but I guess the Renault buyout really just masks all that, and that's all that really mattered about this season, was just securing their future, and now that's secure, they can just worry about the on-track stuff, and hopefully have a much better year next season. Let's finally then talk about Toro Rosso. What a great year this has been for them. So happy they just took a punt on Sainz and Verstappen. What an exciting lineup, really. And, it's hard to put them into words how great and how, brilliant these two drivers have been. And, I stress these two drivers, not just Verstappen. Sainz has been equally impressive in my mind. Yes, he got completely outpointed by Verstappen, but Sainz outqualified Verstappen over the season. And also, more crucially, Sainz had 7 retirements, including a run of 4 mid-season when that Toro Rosso was really, really strong, when Verstappen was scoring big points. Sainz had car failures and was just really, really unlucky. Right from the off, he had a slow pit stop in Australia, and that bad luck just continued to pour out for Sainz. I just felt so sorry for him. I'm a huge fan of Carlos Sainz, and I was gutted to see so many retirements this year, and hopefully next year with the 2015 power unit from Ferrari, which we know is very reliable, the reliability should be on point. It's just the the deficit they're going to get from having a year-old engine could really hamper them. But obviously they are getting the Abu Dhabi spec, so I think from Australia they could be okay. But as the season wears on, as that engine gets developed, as the other engines do get developed, we're going to have to see Toro Rosso might just fall behind a slight bit. But yeah, in regards to the 2015 season, it probably could have been better, really. You look at what a good car they had. At one point Verstappen was saying they have a chassis to match Mercedes, which of course was a bit of a overstatement, but the bare principle of that was that Toro Rosso have a really, really good chassis, and he wasn't too far off the point, really, because Toro Rosso have had an amazing chassis this year, but that Renault engine has completely let them down. I strongly believe that if they did have a similar engine to the rest of the field, they would be right up there challenging for 5th place in the Constructors. But sadly, the 2016 Renault engine isn't looking much better than the 2015 engine, so perhaps moving to Ferrari power, even though it isn't a year-old engine, might not be a bad thing, and they could possibly even challenge Red Bull, of course, who will be stuck with the 2016 Renault engine. Could the 2015 Ferrari engine actually be faster? That's going to be very interesting to see. But yeah, you can't really fault Sainz and Verstappen. Verstappen made a few errors, very, very costly one in Monaco, and in Britain as well. Sainz not so much, really. He hasn't made as many errors, which of course is to be expected of him being the slightly more experienced guy. Of course, Verstappen just having 1 year of car experience before entering Formula 1. It's just amazing, really. The 18-year-old has done a fantastic job. But as I stressed before, so has Carlos Sainz, and do not forget that. He is going to be mighty next year because he's going to have a point to prove, I think. The media perspective, the media kind of and fan perspective is that he's nowhere near as good as Verstappen. So hopefully in 2016 he's going to have the car to finally show what he can do against Verstappen. But yeah, Verstappen, many tipping to be a future world champion, and it's hard to disagree, really. The guy who comes in at 18 years old and just completely bosses Formula 1 and just making it's not just the wild moves. The wild moves anyone could do. Kamui Kobayashi did them. That's not going to make him a future world champion. It's the fact of just his raw pace, really, and just fantastic race pace. It really makes him future world champion material, as with Carlos Sainz as well, who, it's going to be interesting to see what path his career takes. I will probably make a few videos talking about the future in terms of the driver market, possibly coming up over the winter and that. But yeah, Sainz Verstappen have been absolutely brilliant this year. It's a shame that Sainz's best result is only a 7th. That really does not reflect truly what Sainz could have done over the season. And crucially, in Hungary, I do believe he could have beaten Verstappen. Verstappen actually did get a lead call on the strategy, despite being Verstappen was actually behind Sainz. He got lead call on the pit strategy, and then of course Sainz had a failure. So really, without those two elements, Sainz possibly could have got that 4th place, which should have been a really, really amazing achievement, and was just overall just really, really solid, as was Max Verstappen as well. So overall then, the whole Toro Rosso team, I think it could have been better. They should have really got 6 off Lotus. It was going begging, really, and I think they will be disappointed not to achieve more. But on the other vein, they are 7th once again. Pretty solid position for Toro Rosso to be in. Where are they going to be next year? It's really, really tough to say. It really depends on how much the engines are going to be developed from 2015 to 2016. Are they going to be left at the back of the grid with a year-old engine, or are they actually going to be able to fight in the midfield thanks to a really, really solid chassis and an engine that's actually not that bad compared to the 2016 Renault? We're going to have to see then. It's going to be very, very exciting to see. It's just a recap then. Force India, great year for them. Perez has been on point this year. Hulkenberg's been disappointing. Maldonado's been dreadful. Needs to get kicked out of Formula 1 immediately. Not because of his crashes, I stress, because of his awful pace. Grosjean, good farewell leaving year for him at Lotus. Excited to see what he can do at Haas. Sainz, equally as impressive as Verstappen. Verstappen, definitely future world champion material. Sainz as well also has potential to do that, and you have to remember that Sainz has been equally impressive. That's what I got to stress. Although, if I had to rank them, I would rank Verstappen slightly higher, but that's only because of more opportunities to see what he can do. Let's hope Sainz gets that opportunity in 2016. Okay then, that's round out then part 2 of my F1 2015 season review. We've looked at Force India, Lotus and Toro Rosso. This episode will be looking at Mercedes, Ferrari, Williams and Red Bull in the 3rd and final part of this F1 2015 season review. Until then, I will see you guys next time. Hope you have a wonderful week. Goodbye.